town you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk.
The podcast by the people, for the people.
That's right.
all the things.
That's what we are.
Nice shirt there. Are they still playing or that's over?
That's over. Yep.
Baseball?
Yes, the Corn Belt League. Yep, that concluded
Oh, yeah. That.
a while ago.
I think we talked about that.
Yep.
That's all right. But
Yep.
I'm getting confused because we have friends that still have their kids in baseball. I guess it's like any sport.
Right.
It's always year round. It never ends.
Yeah, there's fall leagues everywhere
Oh,
you
okay.
look now. And also actual college baseball teams are reporting and starting practices and stuff.
Okay.
So, like, their spring conditioning is actually their fall
I was
conditioning.
actually even confused last night. Joel put on a soccer game and it was boys soccer. I was thinking they played in the spring sports, like college.
Well, who was playing?
I can't remember what college it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I guess college or whatever. But, I mean, at least when she played in school, they're playing right now.
Yeah, but it was boys, so I always thought they were opposite, but maybe that was high school. Anyways, it's just like, it made me think of sports. It never ends.
Yeah, it doesn't. Nope.
Ever.
Now with your
Ever.
your off-season leagues and
Yeah.
your AAU stuff, all that.
Yeah, and it's got to be even like more with when the weather's nice, like in all these Florida, California, all these places where here people have to go inside.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big reason why Nebraska loses a lot of really good golf recruits to Texas and Florida because they can golf year-round. Same can be said for baseball.
Oh, golf would be hard to do inside.
So, yeah. So, yeah, it's just a leg up. So, but,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, random thoughts.
Yeah, so it's Wednesday that we're recording. This will be coming out in a couple of days. What was up with the weekend? What's your weekend recap?
Was that the festival this weekend? I mean, time's a blur for me right now. Didn't Platt Smith have their little
Yeah, I think so.
Harvest
The
Festival? it's
Harvest
called?
Festival, yeah.
They do a good job with that.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I think there was a car show and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Few
just
different
heard about the car show. Show was really cool.
Yep.
Walked down Main Street there and stopped in that little gun shop you were talking about. And Gunsmith. Those dudes, those are some cool dudes.
Yeah, they got a neat little spot down there.
Yeah, and I was just kind of wandering around with Ozzy, and then they kind of, what are you looking for? What are you? I'm just killing time, if I'm being honest with you, and just checking you out. And he goes, we do more than just, work on AR-15s or sell ARs. We do it all. I'm like, all right, well, I threw this at him. I'm like, well, I have trouble keeping up with my British 303. It's a very specific round it's a World War II rifle made by the British. And it uses a certain kind of round that's not the easiest thing to come by. And he's like, oh, yeah, we have that right over here. And he had a whole bunch of boxes already pre-made.
Really?
Like, whoa. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be back.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so, they won me over in about 15 minutes.
You've been there a few times. You like that guy.
I have, yeah.
Small town.
Yeah,
Gun shop.
They're doing some cool stuff down there.
Yeah. Maybe we should have him on.
Yeah, we definitely should. Yeah. We'll go down
That's a
and
good
ask
idea.
him.
We actually did a trade too. Joel had a chain. Didn't like it.
No, a different store.
Oh, that's a different store? I thought they sold guns there too.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Okay, well, I'm talking about a different store.
Yeah.
I've never been in that one that you're talking about then. Anyways.
Well, then you guys were at the golf course all weekend, weren't you?
Yeah, so speaking of guns, they had an AR platform with an upper that you buy, a modified upper that shoots golf balls. So,
This was at the...
No joke.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and I'm looking up their name here. So the company's called Bravo Zulu Adventure Group. These guys had a tent set up. They were just doing like a fundraiser for their deal.
Okay.
They're real heavily involved in skydiving. So they're raising money for like a lot of different things they do. They take people out and do things and whatever, veterans, first responders, nurses, that kind of thing. But they had this AR, and I think it was like $10. You could use that as your tee shot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was the real deal. I mean, that thing would shoot, depending on how you aimed it, upwards of 600 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you could just keep firing
It
off
was really
golf balls.
easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to load the balls one at a time.
Okay, it was a single shot. All right.
And they run just blank 223 rounds. So it just gets the pressure from it and
Yeah.
blows the ball out of it. It's pretty neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
They did the skydiving too.
And
It
this
was
is
really
at the
cool.
Page.
That's right. Yep. At the Corporal Dagan Page Foundation fundraiser tournament.
Mm-hmm.
This was the second one that they've done, and they're planning on doing it every year. It's getting bigger and bigger, but yeah, all weekend long out there doing that.
You know how they're promoting, do it the day way.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like how the day way to tee off.
Definitely.
Is with the
Yeah,
AR-15.
And for people, I guess, who haven't been keeping up or don't know, that's one of the fallen 13 soldiers from the Afghanistan pullout. Local boy and his family is running the foundation for in his memory, in his honor. So so they get the opportunity to raise a good amount of money this weekend and then do some pretty cool things with it.
No, I was going by Lake Ridge over the weekend. I saw the crowd, and I just thought, man, his family does such a terrific job keeping his legacy alive and building on that and raising funds for others,
Yeah.
that are going through it right now.
Yep, pretty cool deal.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was.
We had a good time.
Yep, good weekend, long weekend.
It was.
Not a whole lot of sleep,
You smoked a lot of meat.
a lot of meat smoking, a lot of beer drinking.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah,
That's
Right?
true.
That's
I was
all right.
hurting.
I'm still a little sore
Are you?
today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wait, but sore
man.
from what? Like your gut?
No, I think just from like dehydration and standing all day.
Yeah, that's true.
gotta
You
look
did
out.
not. He's not much of a sitter.
Yeah,
I like to sit if I can.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like I stand all day at work, but you kind of, I guess you do both. You're sitting in the car and then,
Yeah.
anyways, it was a long weekend, but totally worth it and so
gonna
fun.
say,
We're going to
Yeah.
definitely be a part of it next year. So,
Mhm.
Nice.
Yep, and obviously, again, for anybody listening, on the Farm Focused website and the Stock and Rod website is the Corporal Dagan Page Foundation merchandise, the official merchandise. So if you go to farmfocus.com or stockandrod.com, you can find that. Support the family, support the foundation. There's a lot of cool stuff, and we make it all right here. So you're going to get something good.
do you
Right
see
on.
his arm?
Oh, geez. Smoker
Yeah.
accident there?
Yeah,
Got a little burn?
burned myself on the smoker.
Literally left for what, 10 minutes? We had to run back home to get
Well,
something.
we had run. We cooked 32 pork shoulders in 2 different runs. So anybody who smokes anything knows, like, pork kicks out a lot of fat, like as it's running.
Oh, yeah.
And we filled the smoker with it. And the third morning, which was after 2 days of pork shoulders, fire up the smoker, and it ran its way up that fat and caught it on fire.
Totally. But when we were not there, when he was not
The
attending to it.
smoker's rolling fire in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go and get a bucket of water, open the lid. I just have to deal with it because I got to get it out. So I open the lid, stick my hand in the fire, get it out. Went out quick, so it was no big deal, but burned me.
You're a pro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
If there's anybody
mean,
there, yeah.
It's looking worse and worse by the day.
It's healing. Everything gets worse before it gets better.
Gross.
It reminds me of the first summer of me and my buddies all had little, motorcycles, motocross bikes, dirt bikes. And every one of us eventually had that on our calf that had the side of the the muffler.
I did the same thing when I was a kid.
It's something you got to go through.
Like you just get too close to the hot pipe.
I've told you 100 times
I know,
because
but-
Joel, he rides, and I said he will do that. What you're talking about right there, and then he will quit wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen to me. I keep telling him you have to wear pants, man. And that will happen to him, and then he will wear pants.
He is
rest of
totally
time
the
he
kid
rides.
you can tell him, but it's going to have to happen.
That's
And then it will stick.
That's good though. That's how all little boys should be, I think. Like I'd have that gumption. Like, no, I'll show you. I can do it. I'm
But
gonna
it's
go
like
through
the
it,
muffler thing
Yep.
that's hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
and you get jolted one way or another, or you sit a certain way, and you end up burning your calf.
Yep.
So
Well,
Yep.
that's all there's to it.
I guess I need to prepare myself. We should probably get some burn cream because that's not the right cream that you keep putting
It's
on
gonna
yours.
happen.
It's
He'll be
happened to 100% of all. Yep.
Yep.
Dirt bike.
All men.
All men have to go through it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, what are we covering here today?
we have a lot of things that on our list that we like to talk about, but one of the ones that seems to be getting more and more steam, and we're hearing more and more about, is this lab-grown meat.
Ugh,
We did an episode a while ago, and we should look up what the number was so folks can reference it. But
I'll look.
it was on it was on these these meats that are vegetable based,
Right.
Vegetable protein based or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time we chatted a little bit about this idea of there was like this thing with lab grown meat going on.
It wasn't as big as it is now. They were just leaking out a little information at the time.
Yeah.
Wait, are you guys talking about real meat versus other meat?
Yeah.
That was our second episode. That's crazy.
So it's number 2.
Yeah, so it's February 17th, 2022.
And
we actually had a Beyond Burger. I brought Beyond Burgers, the Burger King style of it. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but to be honest, like as far as that goes and what we're going to talk about today, I think I'd rather eat that.
Agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have those vegetable-based whatever all is going on in there.
Vegetable-based crap.
Than this lab meat. But I keep hearing about this lab-grown meat thing, and I thought it's something we need to dig into. So I did some reading. I listened to some stories on it. I think you did as well. As far as where we start, I guess let's talk a little bit about what this is, maybe.
Well, and where I feel a lot of the craze came from, and how everyone kind of became aware of it. In my mind, it's from a video that went viral on YouTube and Facebook Reels, and it was the Prime Minister of Israel visiting one of their new companies called Stakeholder Foods, where they were just printing off steaks, burgers. I think he printed off a grouper fillet, and then he ate it, and it was just wonderful. And
Like from a machine that looks like a printer.
So it's literally like if I was imagining it. Did you see the video?
I have seen it.
So it's kind of like a big old 3D printer.
Yep.
Totally.
And then these guys just say, "Okay, hey, Mr. Printer, here's what I want to eat today," and then it somehow I don't even really understand how the technology works.
Right.
So there's a fancy kiosk, and you just scroll through and pick the food item, the meat food item you want, and press it, and then it just starts printing it right away.
I know, but what's shoved in there to actually say and then to pop out the meat? That's what I don't understand.
I think that's part of the problem here is that there's so many. So one of the things that I listened to said that there's well over 100 different startups in just the U.S. doing this and trying to figure out how to do it. So you know that they're not all doing it the same. When I think of lab-grown meat, what just makes logical sense to me is, okay, they've got a Petri dish, and they have animal cells, and they are blasting them with growth hormones and whatever all the other things are, and it starts growing, and it's literally a piece of muscle that's grown in a lab, and there's your meat. So I think of it like that. But I think maybe with some of these other ones, they might be doing other things. Maybe with like this this vegetable, meat protein idea, and building it up off of that, and some cell growth, and who knows what. I mean, that's the problem is who knows what.
Yeah.
Well, and I did a lot of digging up on this, and I feel like the more you know or the more you learn, the less likely you are to get behind it, maybe.
The more you don't want to know.
I think there's a method to that. And an article that I'm going to reference a lot here, it was by Joe Fassler of the Financial Review, and it was titled, "Lab-Grown Meat Has a Bigger Problem Than the Lab." And that's where I'm going to be giving a lot of these quotes and statistics was from that article, and I'll put that in the link to this. And they do just on purpose sidestep some verbiage and some processes because they don't feel that people would buy into it
I'm sure.
as much. So, and what kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the Prime Minister of Israel at Stakeholder Foods and just how kind of creepy it was to begin with. You're just printing a steak like you'd be printing a plastic box or something from a 3D printer. In his little spiel, he just worked it in there that when he was talking to the Prime Minister, the salesman or the rep for Stakeholder said just in one sentence, a normal cow, you would have to grow it for 2 years, and it would spend that whole 2 years polluting the world. This takes no land, no water, no carbon footprint, no emissions. Lie.
Yeah, it is.
Lie.
I mean, come on.
Lie.
How can that be?
And proponents of this are saying that this new cultured meat, it's called cultured, and once again, there's different names for it. Cultivated meat, cultured meat, cell
these words,
cultured
yeah.
meat. Yeah, so there's different verbiage there. But what they're saying is there'll be no need for animal slaughter, and it significantly is better for environmental benefits. There will be no greenhouse gas emissions. There'll be no deforestation because we won't need cattle. All these things are just bold-faced lies.
Yeah.
You're going to still need cattle to extract these cells from,
Absolutely.
no matter what you do here.
The thing is, I'll direct folks to a podcast that I listen to on this here in a minute when we get around to it. But one of the things that they cited was it was some kind of, it might even come out of California from one of the universities, a study that showed that the energy required to make this meat is far beyond the carbon footprint that or the pollution or whatever that has been assigned to cattle.
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't
but
either.
That's what I would have assumed, though. That's what I would have thought.
Yeah, so I guess essentially they're saying like all of the electricity and all the shit that goes on in these labs that needs, coal burned and
Right.
whatever else to run these places is far outpacing a cow burping.
Really?
Yeah. And then these people went on to talk about, so this lady who was being interviewed was challenged on that, and she was like, well, yeah, the industry needs innovation and things will get better and, eventually we'll get better and all that. But yeah, that's what it is now. And then, move on. So one of the primary sticking points for these people is we're trying to reduce the carbon footprint. We are reducing the carbon footprint by lab making meat, and then you don't have to grow this animal. Well, no, you aren't.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a fact that you aren't.
Right? Yeah, and you're exactly right with your Petri dish reference, and that's how it's still done and was done. But in order to make enough to be on a large scale to produce food, it needs to be done in like big vats. Like imagine a brewery, like a big one.
Yeah.
And that's been done for a long time, believe it or not.
Okay.
Companies like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, they've been having these vats full of cells, multiplying, and they use those to make vaccines with. So this has been done. Now the turning point, though, is, hey, rather than just using these vats full of cells to make vaccines, let's eat those cells. That's all meat is, right, guys? That's all meat is, right, guys? And I think it's kind of curious, like, are they just totally tone deaf? Like they're referencing Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and making me think that, oh, now I feel good about it.
Yeah, we know the general feeling about all that.
So
to back up a little bit, I want to ask a question because you were talking about all these words that they're using, that they're calling this stuff because they're trying to dance around what it really is. I can't remember. When I was listening to this other interview, the lady who's this expert on it, she was like, yeah, we're trying all these different words. A couple of the things that you said, cultured, whatever.
Yep.
One of them, she goes in vitro. We're calling it in vitro.
Oh, like really? People are going to eat that?
Right.
And I'm getting in vitro meat?
And that's
Come
exactly
on.
the people who are the people that were interviewing her. That's exactly what they said. And you're talking about pretty far left-leaning interviewers.
Oh,
and
they didn't like
They
that?
were like, oh. Both of them were like, no, don't go down that road. And Lay's like, oh yeah, okay. Well, the big one was cultivated.
yes.
That's the
Yeah.
big one they're trying to use.
I could see that.
Now, I want to ask, because to me, words mean something.
Yes, we've
Language
talked
means
about
something.
this a lot.
It's
Yeah.
extremely important. And when you try to twist language, you need to be called on it. And people need to understand because you're just fooling people. When you think of the word cultivate, like I know what I think, but what do you guys think? If you hear the word cultivate, what comes to mind?
I'm thinking of cultivating the land. That's where I'm at.
100%.
So
Yeah,
you're like
like
tilling the land, you're planting
moving
the
it
seed,
around, you're
watering it. Yeah.
So I just looked it up.
tending to it.
I just looked it up
Okay.
on dictionary.com, cultivate. To prepare and work on land in order to raise crops, to till, to use a cultivator on. There's literally an implement that farmers pull called a cultivator.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so you're trying to tell me, Mr. Lab-grown meat, that you are cultivating this as if like, so you're twisting this word. You're trying to use the part of the definition on this word that says to prepare and work on, and you're trying to cover that up of what you're actually doing, and you're pulling an ag term into this. to try to make people feel better about
But
it?
it sounds so good.
That's what I'm saying. This is what these people do.
They should
And
be
they're
using it,
actually-
not. But like,
It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
they're totally twisting it.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're actually attacking real farms too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're coming under attack here, trying to, our ranchers anyway. Along with your war on words here, are using words. So a reason why this conversation has been brought to the forefront, like it didn't just happen by accident. The USDA just recently allowed for the sale of these meats in the United States. Two of these companies are owned by or significantly backed by Bill Gates. And one of them is
Shocker.
called Eat Just, and the other one's Upside Foods out of San Francisco or in that area. Now just think about, and the third one's Believer Meats. Those are the big three here. But just think about what that name right there, Eat Just. And I think their parent company is Good Meat. So what is that saying? So right away, the meat that I eat isn't good,
Yeah.
and I'm not a just man because I eat my regular meat over here. But if I eat just, I got to eat just.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm a good guy.
It's funny you saying that because as I was sitting here thinking of all the things, I was thinking, are these governing bodies going to be okay with this, or are they? And you're saying they are.
Yep. Last year,
Okay.
Upside received clearance from the USDA to bring its products to market. It just so happens that Bill Gates is, a main shareholder, owns a company, big
money,
deal.
money.
You know.
What I heard on, I think it was dated in May or June, so we're a couple months out from there, but that the USDA or the FDA, or it might have been FDA, had approved it, had approved these folks to move forward with it. But what the expert that they were interviewing said was that, and this lady's 100% behind it, so she has no reason to exaggerate or lie about these particular numbers, is that she thinks it's going to be about 5 to 10 years before you see it in grocery stores. So she may or may not be wrong on that, but that's something to think about for perspective. The other thing is that she said it will hit restaurants long before it hits grocery stores.
Yes.
So the restaurants will be allowed to prepare it and deal with it and whatever, I guess, because they don't have to jump through as many hoops as a grocery store has to put it on the shelf. But she said there's a number of restaurants outside of the U.S. that it's being served in today, and then there's a few of them in the U.S. that are getting real close to doing it.
Oh my gosh. And I think people are just it's gonna be this initial, ooh, I want to try it just because. And I really hope it fades.
Well, I mean, they're just going to slide it in on you, and it's a 5 or 10 year process, like you're talking about. That's why the story is now.
But
coming
I mean,
to
to
the
try
forefront.
it in a store, or I mean, in a restaurant, I think people would be like, oh, I'll try that.
And that's the thing, like what you're saying, Andy, is they'll slide it in or whatever. This lady even said, again, she's a proponent for all this. She has 100% had it. She's tried all of it. She's done all the things. She's had, gourmet meals made with it, so on and so forth. She said, when it's mixed in things, like it's a chicken taco, or it's some kind of chicken pasta or something like that, she's like, you have no idea. She said it tastes awesome. It's perfectly fine. It's exactly what you would expect. She said when it's by itself, that depending on the manufacturer, because each one is doing different things, it's very realistic. But she said the flavor isn't quite there. Like there's something about the flavor that's that you're not that you don't that you expect that you don't get.
Yeah, these lab grown cells lack a few thousand different things going on there. Yeah.
So did she say
That was
like what it's lacking? Like,
well, in taste and,
Yeah,
and
she
a little
just
bit in
said
texture
something
and
to
stuff.
do with the flavor
Okay.
primarily.
And that was the big knock. And you're right. It's going to be chicken that comes out first.
why?
And I guess it's easier to make, or it's ready to make. I don't
something.
know why chicken's going to be the first thing slid out here. Maybe it's more acceptable. I don't know.
If you think about it, it's kind of like not really, but similarly as far as achieving the texture, like fake crab meat. You see fake crab meat all the time.
Right.
It's not lab grown. It's vegetables and stuff that they're stringing together, but they're getting that texture right. I think a chicken texture might be a little easier to achieve.
Well, and that's when Upside Foods first rolled this out, and all these taste testers and stuff, writers came in, food critics. Their big knock was your nuggets just don't taste good. Oh man, I love it and this and that, but so then you got to just throw it in chicken noodle soup or whatever, to make it.
And similarly to when we talked about these vegetable meats, these Beyond burgers and all this kind of stuff, they have to plow them with salt and other things.
Yes.
In order to make them even taste like anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's and everybody agrees. Everybody, left, right, middle. You cannot have an Impossible Burger. Should not be a staple of your daily diet.
Yeah.
Like that is worse. That's way worse than eating the fattiest hamburger ever. So but they don't come out and say that. They let you still believe the old adage, and that's it's healthier for you because it's green, it's peas, chickpeas.
Right.
And that's
It'll be
once again
interesting.
that's another lie.
It's just not. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they market it. Right, all this when it comes out. I mean, again, like you're talking about the Impossible Burger. I mean, that really attracted people to it. However, they did it. So
they want it to just be called meat. They want to drop the culture. They want to drop all that stuff. Unless it really falls the other way, where they can, then the public accepts it and really likes it. So then they can just squash old meat or meat.
Yeah.
Can we just call it meat?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the bottom line is that it is muscle tissue. Mm-hmm. Like they're literally growing muscle tissue in a lab. So it is that, but there should absolutely have to be a differentiator between was it naturally grown or was it lab grown?
I would think people should have the right to know that.
Yeah.
yeah, have they talked about that or like what they're gonna say?
I don't think they've
is
gotten to
in
that
it?
yet.
Don't think they've gotten there yet.
At least they haven't
So on
published
the
it.
label, we don't really know.
Yeah, and it's kind of being called an alternative protein. I'm an alternative protein advocate.
Yeah.
So that's, and they're saying once again that it's not different, and it is. And do you want me to get in the weeds a little bit here?
Yeah, let's
The difference here.
Okay.
So a typical cell, a normal protein cell that you would grow in a petri dish, and then have it divide and then grow, divide, grow, divide. It only does that a few dozen times, and then it'll slow down and die or just regress, whatever. That's why we all die. We don't live forever. In order for this to actually work, they use what's known as immortalized cells. These divide and grow, and they never stop. They just keep dividing and growing, which makes a lot of sense, and that would be conducive,
Kind of
right?
freaky.
Okay, and now here's where, and these immortalized cells, scientists figured these things out or recognized them back in the 1950s, and it was through Henrietta Lacks, a woman that had cervical cancer. And so they extracted some of her cervical cancer cells, got it under a microscope, and they noticed, oh my God, these cancer cells just keep dividing. They never stop. And believe it or not, they still have some of her cells, and they're still dividing today. Think about that. 70 years ago.
Jeez.
And so then that's the big scare. This is what they really don't want you to know about, and that's these immortalized cells that they're using, because people are just jumping off saying, oh my God, you guys are feeding us cancer. Like, whoa, no. Let me read you what they're telling you here.
Okay.
Because I don't want to misquote this. Prominent cancer researchers say that because the cells aren't human, it's essentially impossible for people who eat them to get cancer from them. These cells are just precancerous. Okay, they're just precancerous.
Okay.
If a cell immortalizes, that just implies that it's already completed one of the prerequisites of becoming a cancer cell. So you're all fine. It's you guys, it's okay, all right?
Okay.
It's just like it's a precancer cell.
I feel so safe now.
It's not a cancer cell. It's a precancer. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You guys are worried about something here, and I don't know if they're come on, it's precancerous, right?
Yeah. Humans can't be trusted with this shit.
No.
You know what? The first thing that comes to my mind is I just saw a video of that has been debunked of Anthony Fauci saying, well, that's how it went from a bat to a human, and that totally goes along with how it goes from an animal to a human. I'm like, okay, so when that's your narrative, it just freely goes from animals to people. But now, when we don't,
when we say it doesn't, it doesn't.
And by the way, in this article that I referenced, a lot of the scientists that were pro this just denied to make comment. And he also had a few that said, we are vehemently against it. We do not know if this is safe.
That's kind of weird because that kind of sounds like the exact same thing that happened with mRNA vaccines.
I mean, they are trying to kill off the population. Oh, wait. Should I not say that?
Jeez.
It's so crazy. Like I said, humans cannot be trusted with this shit. So at what point do people think, and I don't know if this has crossed your guys' mind or not, but are these people just playing God?
Trying.
I just think it's the next thing that the Bill Gates of the world can make money on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but if you think about it, like the things that they're doing, what they're seeing, the growth of a animal cell in a petri dish that wouldn't have happened otherwise, except for their intervention, for the things that they're doing, for the stuff they're plowing it with, and all this kind of stuff, and they're making living parts. You know, whether it's muscles or it's organs or whatever the things they're doing.
Yeah.
This is not a task that humans are supposed to do.
I mean, it's definitely, I've thought of it this way. It's so it's so far out there, and we already have a cow right here. We've been raising cattle. We've domesticated cattle and stock animals thousands of years ago, and it's way more efficient, way more cheaper. Everything across the board. And here we are doing this. So maybe there's a God complex going there. I mean, I would have to think Bill Gates' ego is the size of Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
It has to be. And what does this do to the farmers? I mean, I think that's so scary too.
Oh, yeah.
If
Well,
you think bring that level in here.
Yeah, in the long run, I mean, if you look at the potential of this, which I don't know, I think there's going to be so many people that are not going to be down with this that it's probably never going to get big legs. But let's say it did and it got forced and all these kinds of things. I mean, if they can sit there and pump out, a ribeye or a New York strip or a chicken breast or a fish fillet or whatever from these 3D printed machines in a couple of minutes, and that gets mass produced, like there's a pretty good chance that you could see a world where that kind of takes over the protein supply. But again, I think so many of us, at least in the U.S., and I got to believe there's a lot of other countries that feel the same way, that just won't be down with that. But, I mean, who knows?
So when I first saw that viral video from Israel, my first thought was good for Israel because they're so small. They don't have all this pasture ground. They can't. If they want beef on the level that we have beef, they are reliant on outside sources. And I've always kind of, whatever you say, what you want about Israel, but that's a little country that's the little engine that could, and somehow they're still around. So when I saw that, I thought, well, this is a great way for them to become independent, more food independent nation. So I thought, good for those guys. But right within that video, they're like, this is the future of McDonald's. I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay, they got bigger plans. This isn't just to help feed their population. They're going somewhere else with this.
Yeah.
But that was just me trying to keep an open mind. And I do believe that maybe it would maybe make more sense for a country like that to maybe buy into this a little bit more.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
than here.
but they were showing fish too. So I guess that would be kind of the comparison for us. I mean, we're not that close to water, but I still don't want that fake fish.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And maybe I could get behind that more because I feel like we're overfishing the oceans. Like I want to stay open to innovation. I don't want to be get off my lawn guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see the other side and hear it out. But there's just too much evidence currently. Like what are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
And the way that I see it laid out and how they're rolling it out and who's involved, the Bill Gates of the world. This is just like the green energy deal when we threw up all these wind farms that don't produce energy. It's just a total tax write-off. It's a total investment for politicians, their cronies, Richmond, north of Richmond, and they're just pushing it on us. And then you are going to eat this, whatever. It's not cancerous. It's not cancerous meat. It's pre-cancerous.
Yeah.
So
I think part of the problem, and I don't know that this is something that I think we're almost too far gone that we could ever fix, but when it comes to food and it comes to the food supply, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that this country has is the desire for everything all the time, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So when you talk about fish, we're landlocked. We're in the middle of the country. We can't go down the road and grab a salmon or whatever it is. I mean, from a body of water.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. But if us and 200 other families tonight in this town want it, then we'll go find it at a grocery store somewhere.
Well, we can get it.
Right. So the problem is that people don't eat within their own region. So I think
Right.
I think that I think folks need to go back to that. I think that's part of the health issue, and it's definitely part of these issues that we're running into. If you would eat the stuff that is locally grown and raised in your region
And in your season.
during the times of year when it is grown, I think that fixes a whole lot. Like there wouldn't be that need for all of this kind of stuff.
So, like, you mean when apples aren't growing on the trees, then sorry, you're not eating them for the 6 months.
It's not an apple time of year.
Okay.
You know, like
Yeah.
you eat the apples when they're growing.
No, you go down to grandma's cellar and you get the canned apples.
Yeah,
Well,
or you start
that's-
canning.
There you go.
But see that works because, and that's an efficiency thing because within your own space, all of this stuff that you're growing and raising and producing, if you have a way to preserve it, then you can eat it the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But that's different than eating the stuff that came from Brazil because it's warm there right now and it's cold here, and it's been through this whole trail, you know, or from some greenhouse somewhere that hasn't been grown with the nutrients and so on and so forth. I just think people have a real problem with not sticking with what they have around locally.
You're 100% right. We want it all and we want it right now.
Yeah.
And it's just been expedited by DoorDash, Uber Eats, all this stuff.
Yes.
We're told that, what's her name? The blimp lady, Lizzo. I mean, she was on a commercial.
Oh, I
she was
thought
on
you were talking about
She was on a commercial.
Blimpies, like the sandwich. Sorry.
No, she didn't order Blimpies. But she ordered something. She was on a commercial for Uber Eats, I believe, and she's just sitting there ordering all these fancy foods and stuff like that, you know, and no regard, nothing. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
Get
Body
whatever
positive.
you want anytime you want it. Like just shove it down.
Yeah, there
I
you
think
go.
we are, like, to your point, though, I think we are too far gone to go back on that. But people have to bring back some old school ways.
Yeah, it's just something that people have to think about. Like
Maybe,
when you're
yeah.
making your choices, like I'm as guilty as anybody. I freaking love seafood. I would eat it all the time, but it needs to be like a treat,
Right.
you know? Like maybe you have it once a month or something like that.
Right. No,
You have a special meal.
I get that totally. I have a ton of family out in Maryland. Love blue crabs. And when we go out there, it's a boil, and we roll out the paper and all that stuff. But it means more that I only get it once a year,
Exactly.
once
Yeah.
every couple of years when we get out there, whatever,
Yeah.
But that takes self-discipline,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of a tangent on that whole topic, but I think that's part of the reason why things like this are starting to come into existence because it is, you talked about, those folks in these small countries having these things, so now they can have meat when they didn't have as much of it before.
Yeah.
Well, there probably is a lot of things there that they can have that are natural, that work.
Oh, sure. Surrounded by an ocean.
Yeah. Right.
Can I throw one more big contradiction that I feel that this movement's going to have a really tough time getting over?
Yeah, I want to hear
Especially
it.
when the word gets out. So the proponents of this, are saying this is going to be guilt-free meat, no more slaughterhouses. We aren't going to have to use animals here. Once again, that's a lie. It's a huge, huge lie. Okay, so let's say you get around the problem where you don't need cows anymore because you've immortalized all these cells, right?
Yeah.
So they're just continuing to grow. So you don't need cows anymore. That's fine, which I think there's maybe some evidence that you still need to get new cells every so often. But beyond that, you gave a really good breakdown of how that's grown in a Petri dish, right? And to dive into that, you need to feed it nutrients that include amino acids, growth hormones, and FBS, fetal bovine serum. And that's the most important part of this, is this fetal bovine serum to promote the growth and the splitting of all these cells. We get fetal bovine serum from the dying fetuses of cows that are from the slaughterhouse.
Oh,
That is where the most important part of all of this comes from, is FBS.
so they do
You
need a
need-
cow.
not only a cow, you need the cow's dying fetus.
Yeah.
And you extract the blood from that fetus. That is what FBS is.
That's ridiculous.
And that's how this is grown. That is like the nitrogen, if you will, to a cornfield. If you're
Yeah, right.
So like
again, like
it's unbelievable.
What are these people doing? They're trying to play God. They're taking the natural processes that happen within a living being, and they're trying to put it in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes 50 liters of FBS to produce one burger.
50 liters?
50 litors.
What?
One cow. Now, one cow produces 150 to 550, depending on how old the cow is, age, all the health of it. 550 is the max that one cow could produce milliliters of this serum. It takes how many liters? 50 liters. And for those that maybe, relax a little bit on the conversion rate there, 1,000 milliliters make 1 liter. Okay, so that means it takes anywhere from 90 to 330 cows to make one burger.
Jesus.
One of these burgers to get enough of this serum.
90 to 330
cows.
What?
Now, 10 liters.
So cows aren't going away anywhere.
And it's also pretty expensive. This FBS costs about $7,000 per liter for 10 liters of it.
Come on.
And it takes 50 liters to make one burger.
It doesn't even make any damn sense.
So you want to talk about cost effective?
If those things that you said right there are even
are you questioning Andy?
25% true, it still doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense anyway, but I had to do some digging to find this.
I bet.
And because all the little short videos and even the 10-minute, 12, 30-minute videos on YouTube and all
they
this.
didn't talk about that?
Most of them just skip over that. They say nutrients, amino acids, and other liquids to grow.
But did they talk about that at all in your podcast?
No.
That would just...
No, the one I listened to was very high level.
So,
what in the world?
I believe this to be very true. Fetal bovine serum. It's the main proponent needed to grow, to nourish these cells.
So do you think those vegetarians out there are going to say that they can eat this?
No, there's no way that falls under a vegetarian. No,
not at all.
Because that's still meat.
Okay,
that's
but I'm just saying, if we're going to call it fake meat...
Like that's a living, or like basically a living in one way or another piece of animal.
I agree. I'm just wondering.
The cells are derived from a living cow, a real cow.
Yeah.
And then it's actually growing off of a preborn cow.
Okay.
It's consuming liquid from the fetus.
So it's basically goes back to also what we've talked about is probably convenience for some people.
I don't know. I don't know that this is even convenience. This is more than that. This is like I don't know. It's just just a stance people want to take.
This is the next. I swear to. I really view this as the next big windfall cash, the next investment that can just be crammed down our throats.
Yeah.
I really look at it as they even use the clean energy billing when they're promoting this, saying that cows pollute the world. This is less emissions and this and that, and that's all untrue too.
Yeah,
right.
and such a lie.
And that is the way it's being marketed. So, like, kind of back to what you're saying with, like, why would people want this? Because they're thinking like, oh, I'm saving the earth, and animals not getting hurt if I do this.
Slaughtered, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm doing better for the whole world by eating this as opposed to eating. But then once you start hearing the stuff we're talking about right now, then you realize, well, no, because again, if you go back to that math that you did, like if I even got this math halfway close, the amount of death it would take to create one burger.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Like basically, if you took a whole animal, a whole cattle, a whole cow, a whole animal, and you ground it up and you made a bunch of ground beef, you could get 300 burgers.
Yeah.
Okay. But based on what you said there, you need to kill
90 to 300.
A couple of them to get one burger because you need this.
You need the FBS. Yeah. You need the fetal.
I mean, it doesn't this shit doesn't even. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, fetal bovine serum.
So what'll end up happening, I gotta believe, because that makes zero sense in terms of making something scalable, is that they're going to start making it
They're going to grow that shit.
Well, they're gonna make it. It's gonna be synthetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're exactly right. And there's already synthetic serums hitting the market, but they're more expensive than this stuff.
Yeah.
So
for now, but that's what they'll end up doing. But then, what you got to realize is, okay, so when you're eating the natural beef, you're getting all these natural things. Now, when you're eating this lab grown, now here's just one of the many synthetic things that are going to be put in it, and it's an extremely important part. So it's a huge synthetic piece that's being pumped into this. People just don't, again, this is why these people can't play with these things. People don't, you can't understand how all of this, what effect this is going to have on human health.
Just think of that. So now you're adding a synthetic serum to help these precancerous cells split. And then without any 10 years of testing or whatever, you're just shoving it out on the market because we got the grant money now.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Do you think the big wig companies, I know the chicken ones are, from China or whatever, do you think that same company is working for trying to build these machines too, so they're not competing?
Oh, it's an arms race right now.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, over 100 startups in America alone?
Yeah, and that was as of 2 or 3 months ago.
I'm just wondering,
sure
let's say, I don't want to, but let's say Tyson Chicken. Let's say, obviously, they have chicken. Are they trying to then do this also? So they're dipping into both?
You can guarantee they got their eyes on it.
Okay, that's what I'm
100%.
talking about. So then they're not going to lose business over here because of this.
I think I read an article where Cargill was one of the first ones to jump on it. As soon as they got clearance from the USDA, they're like, there we go.
Yeah.
We're on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And those big dogs, I mean, they're going to want to own these processes and stuff.
Yeah,
because it's
that's what I was
it's
thinking.
a threat to them, like you said
Absolutely.
earlier. I mean, it's a threat to their traditional way.
Yeah.
So they need to stay on top.
Could you
of
also look at it like this? Like we eat random food, or we eat processed stuff all the time, right? Like, okay, let's say Cheez-Its. We don't really know what's in that. So could the argument be, you don't really know what this is on the label, but it's still so good and people eat it.
Right.
It's going to be the same thing over here.
You can look the other way, just like we have for years with Spam. That's kind of the running joke with Spam.
Okay.
What's in there? I don't know. It's good though. Fry it. Throw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no big deal. Is that may be the other point that they're trying to get to people, that they're like, eh.
When I think you're exactly right. And Time Magazine actually had a cover that kind of their magazine. And it was when the mask mandates were all starting to get ramped up.
Okay.
And it had all the different questions of what people were asking about masks and vaccines and COVID. And the title on that picture, it had a bunch of thought bubbles, and it said, "Don't think about it."
Oh, so they don't even want you. Ooh,
yeah, it tastes good. Just eat
do it.
Just do it. Don't think about it.
Of course.
On Time Magazine. I mean, if that's not a red flag to everybody, that the powers that be are just telling you, just get the shot.
That
Just eat the frickin' beef.
Reminds me
Eat
of
it.
everything that goes against dare and great. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Make sure you know. And then they're like, just do it.
Just do it. Yep, don't think about it.
Don't think about it.
Yep, just
take that hit.
It's crazy, man. And
eat that food.
That word, immortalized cells, that is so...
Dude.
Well...
Or what was the other one you used? Embryo?
They're making this meat in vitro.
Yeah, in vitro meat. Sorry. I mean, come on.
But I mean, I'm just saying, if they're literally saying, oh, we're working with immortalized cells, we're fostering immortalized cells, that's madness, dude.
Think about all those scary videos you watched in science class growing up, where the cells were just splitting and they just overtook the scene.
Yeah.
The whole. And of course, you think about it, that's cancer. It spreads and it kills. It devours. It consumes everything. That's what cancer is. And now we're turning around saying, eat it.
I honestly don't even think I would try this.
Come
on. I'm
It's precancerous.
Exactly, but anything that's going to...
I don't want to get attacked for that.
I know, but I just feel like this is psycho.
It's absolutely crazy.
I don't like it at all. We've been seeing clips and stuff for a while now, throwing them back and forth on text, and this has just gotten to a whole nother level. We had to talk about it. I mean, people have to know that this is going on.
we're so far from being ready for this. And I mean, some of the stuff that you dug up, Andy, I had never heard. Obviously, it sounds unbelievable. And the more that I sit down and dig into it, it makes it even more unbelievable for myself. I just, not there.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like, what if it was sitting right here on the table? That would be so unappetizing to me. Like, I think I would want to throw up.
It's just so strange.
So 3.4 million years ago, archaeologists found a bone that they dated to that.
Okay.
And it had like cutting marks on it. So like, and that was, ancestor hominids too, Homo sapiens. So as far as back as our existence, we have been hunting and eating meat.
Yeah.
And a lot of the theories run, and we've talked about before, where that had a lot to do with us evolving to where we are now. Eating that protein-rich meat allowed us to free up the energy that it would have taken. And Christina Elder talked about this.
Yes.
We're not made to devour a lot of these plants. Our stomachs aren't really cut out for that. So that energy, rather than being wasted on trying to eat a plant that we shouldn't be eating because it's poisonous to our body, it allowed that meat to grow our brains. And our bodies grew up and our muscles got bigger. All these things that turned us into what we are today, now they're trying to say, no. You want to eat more plants. You want a plant-based diet, or at least eat some fake meat here that's been, bastardized into what this is.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's worked for 3.5 million years. Let's just stick with it.
Yeah.
Just let me have my hamburger.
Right.
Okay, let me have my steak. Right?
Yeah.
I really hope that Bill Gates doesn't listen to our podcast.
I hope he does.
I hope he
If
does,
he does,
too.
we're done. Like
That's
he's
true.
shutting this thing down.
Yeah, our distribution would be that.
Yeah, we're done.
Well, it's not like we're getting
Hey.
sponsored by him or anything.
Well, Elon, we do love Tesla.
Hey.
We gotta
yeah,
get
let's-
someone on our side.
Starlink is the best ever.
Hey.
We're on Starlink,
and we're not
right?
lying
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that. That
We
thing
are.
is bomb.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So to kind of take this in another direction, we've always talked about fresh meats and local meats, and a lot of folks that we work with, and there's a lot of really good options out there. And some folks listening maybe have not explored those yet. So we're going to talk about two of them, and we've had both these guys on the podcast. First of all, Upstream Farms.
Yes.
Good guys. Good guys.
We work directly with these guys, a couple of brothers out here in Albion, Nebraska, raising beef. They're 4th or 5th generation. Their meat is second to none. Black Angus. We've been buying whole animals from them for a couple of years now. You can't beat it.
No.
It's killer. In its category, it is killer.
And I would invite people to check out their website. It's
That's
well
right.
done, or their
Yep.
social media page. Because, they're 4th generation, 3rd generation
Yeah.
rancher farmers, but they had to change up a lot of things to
They
make it
did.
work, to move forward. They couldn't just do it like their dad did it or their grandpa
Yep.
did it. So
Yep.
I find that very interesting, and I love having people like that on the pod.
So these guys, it's upstreamfarms.com. They're raising their own cattle from the genetics that they have built into their herd. They're raising their own grains. They have their own pasture grasses, all these kinds of things that all this cattle is consuming.
Wait a second. That sounds like something that you could just keep doing. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like this regenerative agriculture
Yeah.
practice.
oh, wow.
I don't know.
Okay.
Seems to work when people do it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's an awesome option. Check that out. I promise you will not be disappointed. There's no way around it. You can order a couple of steaks from them. You can order a couple of burgers from them. You can buy a quarter, a half, a whole, whatever. Check those dudes out, upstreamfarms.com. Secondly, we've had on the podcast Certified Piedmontese, and they're local as well. They're out of Lincoln, down the road.
Yep.
This is I'm going to call it like a next level beef because it's a completely different breed. It's the Piedmontese breed out of Italy that they have adapted to Nebraska farm ground, which is some of the best in the country as far as our prairies and our grains and all these kinds of things. They're moving heavily towards full-on grass-fed. That's most of what they provide.
And non-GMO.
Yeah.
Yep. I think they do still have a little bit that's grain finished, but they're kind of going down that road. It's premium beef. It's different is the thing. And that's the reason why I'm willing to talk about them and talk about Upstream in the same conversation because it is different stuff. Both phenomenal.
Yeah.
But two totally different animals, two operations that are doing it responsibly and raising stuff that I promise you will not be disappointed with eating. And with certified Piedmontese, number one, the website is cpbeef.com. That's where you can do all the ordering from. And they have offered a discount code to our listeners, and that code comes off of our merchandise brand, so Farm Focused. So it's Farm Focused 25. So FARMFOCUSED 25. That's going to get you 25% off your order on the website.
Really?
Yep.
I used that once. I'm going to have to use it. Can I use it again?
You can use it as many times as you want, buddy.
All right.
You can use it.
25%.
And there's no secret that with something like what they are raising, it's a premium cut of beef.
Well, think
it's
of it.
going to have premium pricing,
Yeah.
and this discount will help you a lot with that. And I think you should try it because we have, and it's great.
It is. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
And it was the official beef of high school athletics on News Channel Nebraska. So I got to run around those guys a little bit more. But just think about it from 30,000 feet. This is a breed of cattle from Italy. Rocky, high elevations, not the best grass grounds. Of course, they're thriving on Nebraska's grasslands.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Right,
They're
Like
just bulking up.
it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
If you get a chance to look up a picture of a Piedmontese.
Yeah, but
bull,
what's the name of the cow? Like, what kind of breed is
it's
it?
a Piedmontese.
Yeah, Piedmontese.
It's literally called that? Oh.
yeah.
Okay, because
So
I
if-
looked one up before and it just looks like they've been working out.
Yeah, if you look this thing up,
You're right.
Like you compare a normal cow.
one thing
and
I can
compare
tell you
this
for
cow.
sure is that they aren't growing any of these in a lab.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Those are coming from the rolling grasslands, the sand hills of Nebraska.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know, I was confused. Okay.
So I think that's what we got. I think lastly, encourage folks to go on and do the reviews.
Yes.
We definitely need to get some more of those. So on the Apple podcast app, get on there, say a little something about what you think about the shows.
Yeah, that we can get on another top 50 list.
Top 40.
Yeah. Get us,
Oh, 40?
do the review,
Okay.
do the 5 stars. Let us know what else you want to hear. We're always looking for new topics. Same with Spotify. Go on there, do the 5-star. That helps us out a lot. So we need folks to get on there.
And I'm going to list it. I'll put it on there. But I do want to, encourage people to read that article by Joe Fassler of the Financial Review. Lab-grown meat has bigger problems than the lab, because as far as being right-leaning, left-leaning type of article, this is just talking financials. So I felt like it was the best for me when I read all these different things. This guy was just trying to toe the line of dollars and cents. Does this make sense? Very interesting. I'd encourage everyone that's listened up to this point, look it up, give it a read.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sounds like to me it doesn't make sense, but wait.
it doesn't. Nope.
We'll just let everybody decide.
We'll stick with our our farm-raised beef, our ranch-raised beef,
Yep.
That's my beef, and I'm sticking to it.
and our chicken, and our and our fish, and
That might
our
be
pork,
a new T-shirt.
Yep.
and all the things.
Yep.
So-
I'll take walleye out of Beaver Lake here. That
Right.
that works for me.
Yeah.
I'll just stick with that.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right, cool.
boys.
Anything else?
Nope.
You got it.
Peace.
All right, we're gonna close it out.
Later.